So the first game we have on our list here is Wasteland Express Delivery Service.
Designed by Jonathan Gilmour, Ben Pinchback, and Matt Riddle. The artists are a whole slew of people: Noah Adelman, Riccardo Burchielli, Josh Cappel, Scott Hartman, Jason Kingsley, and it's published by Pandasaurus Games.
Cool. Not that there are a lot of rules in this game, but we are not going to go over all of it. I'm going to give you a general sense of what the game is. Basically, you're a trucker in the Mad Max post-apocalyptic type of world. Obviously, it's not Mad Max, but it is the similar feeling.
Mm-hmm.
You are driving a big rig, essentially, from place to place. It's a pickup delivery game where you're trying to complete 3 different major missions. The terminologies are totally different than what the actual game shows you, but whatever. So, if you're playing the base game, there are some scenarios. If you're playing the base game, you have 3 major missions off to the side that everybody can do. They're like public missions. And these are randomly picked out of a deck of a few. I mean, I think it's like 10 or 15 or something like that. So you're going to play with a lot of different ones each time. I think maybe one of them are static, but the other 2 are random. There are also 3 different factions of missions that you can draw cards from. Those are private missions that only you complete. And some of them will also give you the express service that you can get one of the 3 victory points essentially from. Otherwise, you're just doing the private ones, and everybody can do those. What you're doing on your turn is you have 5 actions. Each player is going to spend an action. So I'll spend an action. Matt will go. Eric will go. I spend my second action. Matt second. Eric second, etc. Until all the players done all 5 of their actions, and then you begin a new round. The round starts with an event card. Stuff happens. I can't remember if was it all good. Some of it was bad, I think. Yeah, we locked out the markets and stuff.
We had one bad card, I think.
Yeah.
Most of them were somewhat, helpful.
It seemed like in this game and the theme of it, most of it would be bad, but for us, it was more good than bad.
Fair enough. So what you can do, if you look at your player board that's in front of you, you basically have these squares in which you can put goods and things like that on. You can put upgrade tiles. You actually have to build out the squares. Picture it like if you look at the top down of your big rig and you map it out like a grid of a 2x3, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's your grid of your car or whatever, or your big rig. And then you can add on more trailers onto that to get more space. But what you're trying to do is run around and grab these cubes, different types of goods or whatever in the wasteland. But you have to have places to put them in. So you have to build crates that can carry basic goods. You have to have weapon crates to carry weapons. You can get your upgrades, which takes up spaces, etc., etc. On your turn, you next to that on your player board, you actually have like this flowchart kind of thing where you move your action tokens through. So the first thing is you move it from the available spot. It's like a little gear token. You move it on to the first movement. The first movement usually is a 3, and then it'll be 4 and 5 or whatever. When you move it on there, you get to move spaces. And the board, I think, is a very unique thing to point out. Basically take all the tiles and they're in the shape of a stop sign. And so if you put 4 of those together, it makes a diamond in the middle. And that's where you're going to put the diamond or square shaped city markers inside those. So you have a grid of like 5x5 stop sign looking tiles. And then inside all of the intersections, you have like square cities. So it makes up this cool looking grid. Each of the terrain tiles, which are like the stop sign side, what is that, octagon? I think 2, 4. Yeah, it's an octagon.
Stop sign, yeah.
Yeah, so you have an octagon. Each tile it's also separated into these different lines, so it actually makes movement spaces. So each tile's not just one space to move into. The center of each of those actually holds the bad guys, but more on that in a minute. On your turn, you will do a movement action. That movement action will move you pretty much 3, barring any specials or upgrades. And after you do that movement, you can decide if you want to do a second action on that turn or not. When you do the second action, it's going to move like a flowchart across the lines to the different actions. So you can do combat, you can do purchase, which you're going to buy stuff from the cities you're in. You can do deliver, you're going to deliver the stuff that you purchased. You're going to do, you can also do outpost actions, which are like special actions on these different cities. And then finally, there is a bonus action, or I can't remember what it's called, that takes your whole turn. You can't move when you do it. If you do that, you lose momentum, because if you move and then don't do a second action, the next time it's your turn, you do another move action, you've covered up the first move space, so you put on the next one, which is more spaces. So if you don't stop and do a second action on your turn, you actually can get further and further across the board. That is essentially what you're doing. You're running around, buying stuff, delivering it. And you can also do those outpost actions, which will do, you can get those different mission cards I talked about. You can get ally cards if you want to buy them. You can repair your big rig once you get damaged. The way combat works is you're going to encounter combat a couple different ways. If you are in a terrain tile, one of those octagons that has one of the 3 bad guys in it, there's 3 bad guys that kind of move tile from tile, and you get to move them. When did you get to move them? I totally forgot already.
When you stop on that certain color. Or
That's
that
right.
Faction.
Yeah.
Each tile had the little, each tile had the color on certain spaces, and if you land on that space, then you get to move the red bad guy a space, or blue bad guy a space, or whatever, or a tile.
Right.
So if they come into your space, you have to fight them. Basically, they have a number. You roll 2 dice. You have to equal or exceed that to fend them off. You get bonuses if you have certain upgrades like machine guns and stuff. Some of them will give you plus successes, or some of them will give you an extra die, which you can roll to get, between 0 and 3 successes on each die. Or maybe you roll 1 die. Is that your base? Is 1 die? Or was it 2? I think it was 2. It was 2. Anyway, thanks for that conversation, guys. So you'll roll and try to equal or exceed the bad guy. It's obviously not in your favor if you don't have any upgrades. Otherwise, the other way you can do combat is to move into a terrain tile that has a bad guy and choose to fight it. Most of your actions are limited to 1 or 2 times a turn, or not a turn, but a round or a phase or whatever you want to call it. So like, for instance, purchase, you can only buy once out of your 5 actions. You can only deliver twice. You can only outpost twice. You can combat as much as you want, but when you have it successful, then you get to pillage it, and then that's pretty much the only time you can initiate combat. Otherwise, stuff can still fight you if it moves on to you. Anything else you want to point out as far as the rules? I think that's pretty much most of it. You move around, you pick stuff up, and you deliver it. And when you deliver it, you either get stuff that's going to help you, or you're going to get enough stuff to go deliver and complete quests. So if you're interested in more of the rules, definitely check out a video. I don't think it's really necessary. It's just pick up and deliver in the post-apocalyptic wasteland.
And you don't really get money in the game. You get scraps.
That's true.
Yeah.
That was part of the humor of the game, is that you're not actually getting paid. You're just getting the scrap from the jobs you do, and you spend that scrap as currency.
Right.
So, Eric, let's start with you. What did you think of this game?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I overall enjoyed it. I think it's just as a 2 to 4 or 2 to 5.
Well,
I think
played
it's
with
to
5.
5. Yeah, we
Okay.
did play it with 5.
Because I think on Board Game Geek it said, oh no, it does say 2 to 4 on Board Game Geek, but I think that's like recommended or something. I don't know that I would recommend it 5, because for us our first playthrough was many hours long.
It was like 3.
Not
count. You never count learning the game. Yeah, you can't count that in the playtime.
Okay, but for what it was, it did feel really long at 5. So I would kind of agree with Board Game Geek. I think they said it was best at 3. I think, but component wise, awesome components. Graphic wise, I do like the theme. So all of that was good. You're not going to do a lot of fighting amongst other players. I think there was something that you can add to it to incorporate more P versus P kind of stuff, but we didn't really do that.
I don't even think you can fight each other.
I think there's
but there might be a module or something you can add, or one of the scenarios. But essentially, what you're doing to compete or mess each other up is to move the bad guys onto them,
right?
And they'll end up taking damage. When you take damage, you actually put the markers on a space in your inventory, essentially, and you can't use that space. Or if it had goods on it, that gets destroyed.
And you lose it.
You get to pick where it goes, so obviously that's not going to happen as much. But
I also felt I was gonna go more of the I'm gonna do all that. It's a trading game and pick up and deliver game. I was gonna go more of the go buy stuff, go deliver it, go buy more stuff, and go deliver it. Although I did feel that the rating part of it was pretty powerful, because you don't have to spend any of your money. You just get it once you get your rig up to being able to consistently fight.
Yeah, in the base scenario, it probably does help to pick up and deliver a little bit, buy guns, lots of them, and then go destroy stuff that has
Which
because they always have 2 cubes, but typically when you go somewhere,
they had 3.
They had 2.
Okay,
and
that's
I don't know. It might be a weird thing because when you go and purchase from
you can buy as much as you want.
Right. Some cities have tokens that allow you to buy stuff, and the other cities has tokens that allow you to sell to the demand.
Right.
It was never both. And when you do that, every time you buy or deliver, those tokens actually get resupplied. I just wanted to add that in there as a rule. But what's interesting is, like, you're right, you can go somewhere and buy water and get like 3 water, or as much scrap as you have.
If you had room for 6 water, you put 6 water in there.
You can, yeah. But typically, all that's going to do is you go somewhere else and sell it for more money than what you bought it for. So I bought water at 3 a piece, and then I went and sold it for like 7 a piece.
Right.
And it gives you a lot of scrap. But you're right, it doesn't necessarily help you go complete the other missions because it usually needed a lot of different things.
And also, I didn't really prefer the race to, race to 3 points kind of thing. I prefer games that have victory points as you go through, but that's a minor quip. But I mean, overall, I did like it. I would play it again at 3, maybe 4, but I would shy away at another 5-player game.
What do you think, Matt?
To piggyback on what Eric's saying, the game did feel very long, but I can say that your downtime is short.
Super short.
Because turns are short. So it's not like you're sitting there watching everyone else play while you're just waiting for it to get back to you. It just takes a long time to get your 3 points. I actually like the 3-point thing, especially the fact that there was different ways to get them on some of the objective cards. It wasn't
personal cards.
It wasn't just on the 3 ways that were up front that everybody could do. Yeah, I mean, it is typical. It is just your typical pick up and deliver. I do like the fact that you can mess with people a little bit, but it's not completely detrimental to do it.
I added that to my list too.
It is just kind of a hindrance, and
most of the time you're not going to be out into a place or end your turn out in a place where you can get hindered by it. But there are times where you're like, I need to get over there, so I will be put into a position where I can get hindered by a mercenary.
And I thought the stock market effect with the goods was kind of neat. As people sold them more, the value would drop. So it was kind of like, I don't know if I want to go pick up a bunch of water now because now it ain't worth nothing.
That's true.
Let's focus on guns now. I like the fact that the board is modular. It'll be different every time you play it. It's got a lot of good stuff going for it. It was long and it felt a little repetitious towards the end. I thought it would landslide a little quicker than most pick up and deliver games kind of do, but regardless though, I had a good time. I would like to play it again with less players.
That's fair. I will kind of mimic the fact that I think 3 players would be amazing with this.
Yes.
I'll also say that one of the better parts for me was to deck out your rig, add guns to it or add additional storage or add another wagon to it. So we all had a little bit different.
Nobody's mentioned the game trays yet.
No, that's what I said.
Did you?
I will say, well, maybe I did. I don't know.
I don't think you said game trays. You talked about the components, but not the game trays specific.
I would say the game trays are almost needed because it does feel like there's a lot of setup to the game and put up to the game. So adding that game trays and making stuff so much better to get out and put up definitely helped it.
Oh yeah, I don't think every game needs game trays or some sort of modular storage system that allows you to get the game out really fast. But if your game has tons of components, this is amazing.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I kind of wish I had this for like World of Warcraft. That would be
right.
But I mean, you're already in for like a 10-hour trip, so you might as well just not. I mean, what's another hour, right? I like you talked about the board, Matt, and I think the board is fantastic because it's so unique. I mean, how many other games have that grid shape?
Right.
I mean, every game has a grid shape,
right?
But or a lot of games, but like the fact that it's like octagons with like the middle being like the little cities and stuff, it just looks cool. And the fact that each one has different movement, it actually works out because there's a lot of times you're like, I only can move 3 and I know I can't make it to that city. And so it's like, do I move 3, get closer or 1 space away and move there next turn and waste my move, or just divert and go over to this city and then make it that way? It was kind of neat. I like that. I like the components, obviously. And we talked about the enemies. I like the fact that they don't really hinder each other, but it's there.
Yeah.
And yeah, and the quests, right? So the main quests of the game that are public, at least other than the first one, which I guess you don't have to play with that. That's the one. Oh no, I guess you do want to play with that one because that one's the artifact one.
Yeah.
Where players buy artifacts, and each artifact they buy, those get more expensive. So that's a major thing in the game. You kind of do want that one. But the other two are random. And the ones we had, there was one that had like the psychic thing.
The
it was
vision
like,
quest, I think.
Yeah. It put out like 5 decks of cards. Each person who goes and gets it, you know, takes a deck of those cards, and it's like 3 different requirements, like go here, do this, deliver this thing. And I
See
thought
your
it was
next
cool.
requirement, complete that mission.
Yeah, and the other one was like go to all 4 of the major raider bases and fight them. And just looking through the book and reading the rules for the rest of them, there's a lot of cool ones in there. So I think the replayability just on those alone is fantastic for the base game, and then it had scenarios. Overall, I think it's great. I really like it. I will say that it's very similar to Firefly, and it deletes Firefly for me. I mean, I like Firefly, but I love this, and it had great humor. I love Mad Max. The miniatures are great. Firefly, the only problem with it, I mean, it's a very similar game. You pick up here, go deliver there, and etc. Like the major difference between that and Firefly had this mechanism where you flip over a card, each space you like fly through, and it's like nothing happens.
Right.
It's just tedious. This has a cooler mechanism, and I like the action board in the way that you can't do everything you want in the 5 actions. You are slightly limited, so you have to think outside the box a little bit on what your approach is.
And I also like the fact that it kind of limits you. You can't break the game. I guess.
Yeah.
Because it only allows you to do each action so many times around or whatever. So it keeps you from just constantly like flipping back and forth and buying and selling stuff. It's like, well, you're only going to do that once.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's a really good game. I do think that maybe the first time we played it was longer. Obviously, it always is.
Right.
But I think 5 players probably was a little too much. It probably is more of a 4-player game that could work with 5 people.
Yeah.
So why not? But it's weird because it comes with 6 players worth of stuff. I think you only just need like, what do you need? You got everything except for maybe, no, you got the miniature. I don't know. You're missing one thing you couldn't do with 6 players.
Huh. So you could
maybe it didn't have enough stands for the guys. I don't know. I don't see why it couldn't work with 6, but it would just be so.
There's a reason for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think it's good. Any final thoughts? I mean, I guess we pretty much went through them.
Yeah.
I liked it.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to playing it again. And that is Wasteland Express delivery service.